Hello, welcome to yoga class today. Today's class was made because there was a request for a sequence that has postures that increase libido. So this is our yoga to increase libido class. Now, the reason why we have this request is because, let's face it, sex is important. We're human beings. This doesn't have to be taboo. We can talk about it. We can express it. Sexual energy is part of who we are. This is a form of connection, and it's also how we create life. So it's something really important. It's also something that is enjoyable to experience as a human. So this class sequence is going to help us increase our sexual desire through movement. So let's shift that energy. We are going to be mostly grounded. You can think about incorporating blocks if you'd like. For example, as we start off this sequence, we're going to be in a reclined position on our backs, coming into a reclined bound angle, also known as Supta Baddha Konasana. So this first posture that we're going to explore is to stretch the inner thighs and to open the hips so that we're working towards a wider range of motion. This posture also improves blood flow to the pelvic area immediately. So where the blood goes, so does energy and vitality. Now, if your hips are really tight, you might want to go ahead and have blocks really close to you. So we come onto our backs, and as we do this, we let the soles of the feet meet and the knees splay out. So this is where the blocks may come in handy. If you've got tightness at the hips, you can position blocks underneath your thighs. If you don't have blocks, don't worry. You can use pillows or folded up blankets instead. But just know that it's important to support your thighs even if you don't have props. You can make fists and position the fist underneath your thighs. Now, the reason why this is important is because we can't actually stretch if we're holding tension. So we want the legs to feel really supported so that that stretch can start to happen. Now, whether the legs are supported or not, we're going to close our eyes, bringing our gaze inward. And this is a great time to connect with your breath. Inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. Noticing each inhalation and each exhalation. As you inhale, visualize taking in fresh, clean, new air. And as you exhale, release stale, stagnant energy. As you continue to connect with your breath, focus on softening with each exhale, completely surrendering to the mat, allowing those hips to open up. Allowing the blood flow to arrive to the pelvic area. And also offering yourself time of transition into your practice. Into this time that you've carved out for you to focus on your self-care. And take a few more rounds of breath. Really coming into yourself, to your practice. Now, as we move on to the next posture, we'll take the hands outside of the thighs, gently guiding the knees towards each other, and then feeling the soles of the feet meet the mat. Now we want to bring the heels towards the glutes and taking your arms long, seeing if your fingertips can graze your heels. Now setting up for a bridge pose. In bridge pose, as you inhale, you'll press your feet to the mat, lift your hips so you're at a diagonal from your shoulders to your knees. Now your hands come under your body, fingers interlace, palms pressed together, shoulders roll under the upper back, hips stay lifted. Now, if this feels like a lot of work for your upper body, if it feels like too much for your shoulders, instead of holding yourself up, you can take a block underneath your sacrum for a supported bridge. Now, if you spend a lot of time sitting in a chair, which in our culture most of us do, then you can play around with lengthening the legs, bringing the heels down to the mat. This is going to open the psoas muscles, the hip flexors, counter stretching from all that sitting. If you feel discomfort in your low back, make sure that the block is not actually on your low back, but more towards the glutes. Now, if you're somewhere in between knees bent and legs extended, you might opt to bend one knee at a time. So just feel it out, see what option's working for you. Make sure that you're feeling a stretch, but not to the point of pain or major discomfort. And then again, find your breath. Give yourself time in the pose. Find what you need to support yourself and your practice. Maybe the gaze comes inward again, and you notice your breath. And if you notice that the breath shortened, practice lengthening. I'll settle into the pose. Just a couple more rounds of breath here. Know that when we take this pose, holding it for a longer amount of time, we're able to continue working with the pelvic region. And we'll transition slowly. So if the legs are extended, just bend one knee at a time, soles of the feet meet the mat. Then press the feet to the mat, lift the hips, remove the block, set it out to the side, and then slowly lower down bone by bone, all the way until the tailbone connects to the mat. I'm just taking a moment here in a neutral spine. If you've got discomfort at your low back, you might take the feet wider and then let the knees draw in towards each other. You might even take your hands to your belly. As you inhale, feel the belly pressing to the hands. As you exhale, feel the belly soften. Inhale, taking in fresh, clean, new energy. Exhale, release any stale, stagnant energy. Then heel toe the feet closer together. Lift the feet off the mat. Open the knees as wide as you can. Rotate the soles of the feet up towards the ceiling. Now you might start by taking your hands behind your knees. You want to make sure that the tailbone is connected to the mat. You can try to reach further up, so maybe your hands meet your ankles, but if your tailbone lifts, bring your hands back down to the back of the knees. You might even be able to reach higher, taking your peace fingers, your index and middle finger, to connect to your big toes, or you might take your hands to the pinky sides of your feet. But remember, keep the tailbone grounded. So this is happy baby. Knees are wide, ankles are in line with the knees, soles of the feet are facing up to the ceiling as if you're walking on the ceiling. You might stay here centered, or you might gently rock from side to side, feeling a nice massage for the back space. And depending on how your legs feel, you might straighten one leg as the opposite knee stays bent. If you like that option, you might try it on the other side. You might even extend both legs at the same time if that feels appropriate for your body today. Whatever you choose, just enjoy a few more rounds of breath. Just notice the sensations in your body. Wherever you are, find center. And take your hands behind your knees if they're not there already. Just pause here and draw circles with your big toes. Get some ankle mobility. And then circle around opposite direction. Now bringing the knees closer together, lift the tailbone and start to rock up and down the spine. You might do this a few times, just getting a little momentum and then coming onto your seat. Now, as you come onto your seat, we're going to take a wide-legged forward fold. So I'm going to turn my body so that I can use the length of the mat. You might want to do that too. If you're practicing on a floor that has a harder surface, it'll be more comfortable to have your heels and your legs on the cushion of the mat if you've got this harder floor. So you decide what you need in your setup. And when you open the legs wide, you want to feel the calf muscles and the hamstrings connected to the mat. There is a natural lift underneath the knees, but you don't want a lot of lift. Now we're going to be feeling a stretch at the inner thighs. We take the hands forward. Inhale, lift the crown of the head. And then as you exhale, start to fold forward. Take your time. So as we fold forward, we might keep the hands connected or we might lower onto the forearms. Know that the wide-legged forward fold improves blood flow to the pelvic area. And all this attention that we're giving to this area really helps to tone and to improve orgasms. So this is really cool and important stuff that you might not know. Now, let your feet completely relax. Notice if your feet are wanting to point or flex, just let them be passive. On your next exhale, you might fold a little deeper if that's available. If you feel really uncomfortable bringing your body down without support, know that you can incorporate blocks. You can take one block underneath your ribs and you can take another block underneath your forehead. So you might try that and see if that's something that feels supportive and good to you. If you don't need that support, you can simply fold forward more, deepening the stretch at the inner thighs. And the more you fold, the more you're going to deepen the stretch also at your back space. So if you notice that you're holding your head up, let it go, let it relax. Your head might even touch the ground. Now, alternatively, stay where you are if it's working for you. There are some of us that have really tight backs. So if you notice that you're going backwards rather than able to fold forwards, I recommend scooting up against a wall space so that you have a straight spine rather than leaning back and feeling like you have to hold yourself up. So scooting up to the wall if you need to, or continuing to fold if that's available. We'll take a few more rounds of breath here. Maybe folding a little deeper for the next couple rounds if that's available. Now on the next inhale, we'll slowly start to rise up, lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. Straight spine, axial extension. We'll take the hands underneath the knees, guiding the legs towards each other, and then take the feet out to one side. So we're changing the station of our body from seated to kneeling. And as we come into this kneeling position, we want to spread the fingers wide, position the wrist under the shoulders, knees under the hips. So we're coming into our cat-cow. We want to keep the arms straight as we do this. So as we inhale, we'll let the belly lower towards the mat. As we exhale, we'll lift the upper back, creating space between the shoulder blades. Inhale, belly softens. Exhale, lift the back. Cat, cow. Moving through extension and flexion of the spine. Remember to keep the arms straight and allow your movement to follow your breath. Now we'll bring it to a neutral tabletop position, reaching the crown of the head forward. From here, we're going to transition to downward facing dog. So we want to give ourselves a little more space. We're going to walk those hands, one hand placement forward. Now, think about positioning your hands shoulder distance, maybe a little bit wider. Curl the toes, lift the hips way up high, and then press them back, downward facing dog. Now, think about sending your chest towards your thighs, taking pressure out of the shoulders. If the hamstrings are tight, you can bend your knees. If you want to open the legs a little more, you might bend one knee deeply as the opposite leg straightens, and then try that on the other side. Notice the sensation going up the straight leg into the hip. Maybe take another round. Back to down dog. And then from here, you can walk your hands towards your feet. Bend the knees if you need to. Come into a forward fold, completely letting the head and the neck dangle. Maybe shaking the head from left to right, right to left, forward and back. Bend the knees, flexion for the spine. If the knees are not bent and the legs are straight, then we're getting a nice deep stretch for the back of the body. Downward facing dog and standing forward fold are inversions. Working with the blood flow. We can get more traction for the spine if we take the hands to opposite elbows and frame our head with our arms. Maybe we come back to those knee bends if that feels appropriate. And deepening the stretch of the legs. And taking 3 on each side. And switching it up with each breath. Back to center. If you're holding on to the elbows, release them. Bend the knees, slowly start to roll up. Take your time, there's no rush. Take a few rounds of breath. Let your head come up last. That way you won't get dizzy. And then we come into Tadasana, our mountain pose. Our arms are by our sides, palms are facing forward. Just give yourself a minute to feel grounded at your feet. So as you come onto your feet, you might lift your toes and spread them wide, just like you did with your fingers when we were in our tabletop position. You might also rock weight towards the toes and then back towards the heels, just noticing this standing foundation and feeling the feet really rooted down. So we're transitioning now to take a standing balance. I'm going to demonstrate with arms and legs. You don't have to do both. You can just do arms or you can just do legs. So starting off with the legs, first I'm going to bring my feet together. So this is our eagle pose. And I'm going to lift my right leg and I'm going to cross it over my left. Now from here I can tap the toes down. You want to bend the knees, sit back a little bit. You might curl the toes. If you notice that this really twists your hips, try to bring them to center. If you can't bring them to center and or you feel really wobbly, bring the toes back down for more stability. Maybe you sit a little deeper, feel the thighs engaging. Now, if you want to incorporate the arms, reach the fingers out. From here, we're gonna cross left arm over the right, bend the elbows, maybe the palms meet. Now, think about keeping the shoulders low, just lift the elbows. Feel a nice stretch at the upper back shoulder area, especially the shoulder that you have on top, crossed on top. Maybe you sit a little deeper. Maybe you challenge yourself more by bringing your elbows towards your knees. This is just an option. You don't have to go there. Figure out where you want to be. And remember, if this is too much, you don't have to include your arms. You don't have to include your legs. You can do one or the other. You decide, because this is your practice. Now, press standing foot to the mat, lift the leg, come out of it, and just shake out the leg that was your standing leg. Give it a rest. Now, if you tried this and you were like, whoa, this is way too much for me, remember the wall. You can come up to the wall for support. Maybe you take the leg option with your hands to the wall, or maybe you stand in your standing foundation and just work with the arms. So taking your option, now we're going to come into the other side. So we lift the leg, cross it over. Maybe we start with the toes tapping down. If that feels okay as you lower down, maybe you curl the toes, really squeezing the thighs together. Now sit a little lower. Okay, if you want to incorporate the arms, now we're going to cross right over left, palms meet. Keep the shoulders low, just lift the elbows. Hold and breathe. Maybe you sit a little lower. Maybe you bring the elbows towards the knees, coming back to flexion for the spine. Keep your balance. Modify anytime you need to. And then press standing foot to the mat. Release the arms, release the leg. Shake out the leg that was just your standing leg. So this eagle pose is awesome when you release the legs, because all the blood comes flowing through the cervix, preparing the area. All right, so now we're gonna come into pigeon pose. Pigeon pose is one that we can do back down onto the mat grounded, or if you wanna stay standing, you can do this one standing. So I'm gonna show both. Because we're already standing, I'm gonna start with this one. So you wanna start with your feet hip distance. Then you're gonna lift one leg, whichever one you wanna start with. Lift the knee up, then splay the knee out. Bring the ankle to the opposite thigh. Make sure you're not on the knee, just above. And then sit back, reach the arms forward. So this is our standing figure 4. This is an option if you wanna take this instead of pigeon. If you want pigeon as an option, then I recommend first coming into your forward fold, planting the hands, stepping the feet back, think downward facing dog. Then bring your right knee behind your right wrist. Look past your left shoulder, lengthen that left leg, including the foot. You're gonna feel a really nice stretch at the right hip. Here you can position a block if there's enough space, or a blanket, or maybe a little pillow. Or you might not need a prop. So you might stay here. This might already be a deep stretch. Or you might come on to forearms to deepen the stretch even more. I like to bring my elbows out and then stack one hand on top of the other to make a pillow for my forehead. So you can take the standing option. If you're in the standing balance, you can take your hands to the wall for support if you feel wobbly. Or if you rather be grounded, you can come into pigeon pose as I'm demonstrating now. Exhale, release. Wherever you are, whatever you chose, come back to your breath. Inhale, taking in fresh, clean, new air. Exhale, release stale, stagnant energy. Connect with your breath. Almost time to come into the other side. Next inhale, lift your head. Exhale, press palms to the mat. Now, if you're standing, stay where you are. Just lift your leg and then place your foot back down onto the mat. If you're grounded, slide your right knee back, come back into tabletop. Now, whether you're standing or kneeling, you're going to lift that right knee up and out and circle it around 3 times in one direction, just flossing it out, and then 3 times opposite direction. Mobility for the hip. Okay, right knee comes down. Now, if you're grounded, walk your hands forward, curl your toes, come back into downward facing dog. Then you're going to take your left knee behind your left wrist. If you're standing, you're going to do the same thing you did before, opposite leg, set yourself up. Remember, you can use the wall. If you're grounded, look past your right shoulder. Make sure that your right leg is straight, including your foot. Then gaze forward. Decide if you want to stay here. First, feel into sensation at the left hip. If you want to go deeper, then you might come on to your forearms. And if you want to go even deeper, maybe you send the elbows out, stack your hands, make a pillow for your forehead. If you notice tension in your arms, think about letting the elbows go wide. With each exhale, let the heart melt down towards the mat. Feel the stretch deepen at the left side. Just breathe. Let each exhalation be an opportunity of letting go. There's so much that we hold on to. Just let it go. Know that if you feel uncomfortable at any point, you can always modify. Find a different variation that is best supporting you. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Almost time to come out. As you inhale, you're going to lift the head. Exhale, press palms to the mat if you're grounded. If you're standing, go ahead and lift up and out. Bring both feet to the mat. If you're grounded, slide that left knee back to tabletop position. Now, whether you're standing or kneeling, now working with that left knee. So take the left knee up and out, circle it around, big circle, 2 more times in this direction. And then 3 times opposite direction. And come back to tabletop. If you're standing, inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, take a forward fold. Start to make your way down to the mat. So from here, wherever you are, take the feet out to one side. We're coming back onto our backs. Coming into some reclined options. So make sure there's enough space on your mat for your entire back, shoulders, and head to fit. And then slide your heels towards your glutes again. Extend your arms, fingertips towards your heels. Back to a neutral spine. Back to checking in on your breath. Finding expansion in your breath. Inhaling all the way to the top. Exhale, big release. Now coming into fish pose, a big heart opener. We'll extend the legs. Bring the legs together. Take your right hand under your right glute. Take your left hand under your left glute. And keep the feet together. Keep the legs together. So we're coming into fish pose. For fish pose, we'll rotate the crown of the head to the mat. lift the heart, lift the upper arms. So you're coming on to the forearms. Now, really opening your heart. The back is completely lifted off of the mat. Feel the shoulder blades coming in towards each other. Heart opening, an opportunity to cultivate love and compassion. Now, if you're cool here, stay like this. If this is uncomfortable for your hands or your wrist, then I'm going to show you a supported option. So you'll take a block to the mid-height underneath your spine from the mid to upper back. And then the second block is going to serve to support your head. So with that second block, you can choose if you want the lowest height, mid-height, or highest height. I think it's a really safe way to come into this by holding on to the block under your spine, making sure that the block is not on your low back or your neck. It's pretty ideal to get the corners of the block right underneath your shoulder blades because that's an area where we hold on to a lot of stress and tension. So this fish pose stimulates the throat energy center, which helps us with expression and communication. Now the block underneath your head can change based on if your neck hurts or not. Arms can stay by your sides in this supported fish, or you can take your arms out if you'd like to feel a shoulder stretch. You decide. Just let yourself drop into this pose, especially if it's supported. Really letting that heart open. This can be really difficult for some of us. Heart openers make us feel vulnerable. When we're emotional, heart openers are a really nice opportunity to work with that emotion, to let it come up and let it shift. So for me and my body, this posture feels amazing because I hold a lot of tension in my upper back and under my shoulder blades, and heart openers always feel really, really good to me. So if you feel good here and you want to stay here longer, you can, no problem. Just come back to the rest of the video when you're ready. There's no rush. Now, for those of you that are ready to move on, we'll come out really carefully by lifting the head and removing the block, and then bringing the arms by your sides, lifting the shoulders, sliding the elbows back, coming onto your forearms, and then pressing your palms to the mat so that you can remove your blocks. Now, as you remove your blocks, let yourself come onto your back. So even if you were unsupported, we're all just going to come onto our backs, coming into this neutral spine. You can bend your knees, bringing your heels towards your glutes. We're going to go here next anyway. So remember, you can take the arms long. Fingertips are looking for the heels. Now, in this time, we can come back to our bridge pose or supported bridge pose, or we can take more intensity by coming into wheel pose. Now, wheel isn't going to be for everyone, but it's a nice opportunity to continue with heart opening and also to balance the chakras, all of the 7 main energy centers in your body. Also, wheel is a big back bend, and back bends really help to energize the body. So if you want to come into wheel pose, if this is part of your practice, if your chest is really open, then just move your hair out of your way. You want to bend your elbows, take your palms to the mat so your fingers are facing towards your feet. Slide your heels towards your glutes. Then you're going to use your energy to lift your head, lift your body, extend your arms. Wheel pose, chakrasana. This one feels so good. Really push the mat away, extend those arms. And then bend the elbows when you're ready to come out, and come out really slowly, carefully. Take your time. As your tailbone connects to the mat, you can take the feet wide, drop the knees in towards each other. Just come into your breath. Notice the energy at your heart center. Instant energizing. instant heart opening. Enjoy that sensation. Feel so much gratitude for this time, for your practice, to pay attention to yourself and what your body needs. I'll take a couple more rounds of breath here. Now from here, we're going to come into Shavasana, our posture of integration, our posture of stillness. So as we come into this pose, you can decide if you want to keep your knees bent. That'll be especially nice for if you have any low back discomfort. Or if you prefer, you can extend your legs, bringing your heels to the corners of the mat so that you've got space between the legs. And then you can open your arms out to the sides, creating space at the armpits. Hands can be facing up as an intention of receiving. Or palms can rotate to face down as an intention of grounding. You decide based on what you need. Tuck your chin towards your chest, lengthening the back of the neck. Close your eyes. Bring the gaze inward. Give yourself permission to be in stillness. In this time, observe your breath. Inhale deeply. Exhale, big sigh of relief. Inhale, taking in fresh, clean, new air. Exhale, release stale, stagnant energy. Take a scan of your body. Notice anywhere you might feel sensation. Notice any area where you might be holding on to tension. As you exhale, let this area soften. With each exhale, melt down into the mat. With each exhale, completely letting go. Giving yourself permission to be here now. Focusing on just being without the pressure of constantly doing. Just enjoying this experience. The sensations that it brings to your body, your heart, your head. Inhale, taking in fresh, clean, new energy. Exhale, release any stagnation. Feels so good to just let go. And from here, we'll bend the knees. When you're ready, there's no rush. Take your own time. Maybe you lift the feet off the mat, and we're just going to roll over to one side, coming into the fetal pose. Posture of new beginnings. And then pressing one hand to the ground, slowly, slowly taking your time to rotate your body. Making your way to a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you. You might have your hips grounded on the mat. You might be sitting on a pillow or a blanket or anything that feels cushiony to you. But as you make your way into the seat, feel the hips grounded. Crown of the head is rising up, straight spine, as if you're sitting up against a wall. Now, in this seated position, find your way back to your breath. Inhale deeply. Exhale, let go. Notice in Shavasana and in our seated posture, we take the time to be present and in the moment. We create a direct, unfiltered connection to our true self, sexuality included. And as we find ourselves in this seat, we can decide if we want to be in this easy seat with one leg in front of the other, or if your hips are more open, you might come into half lotus, or you might come into full lotus if that's available for your hips, to continue to work on opening them, externally rotating them, and increasing the range of motion. Whatever you decide for your legs, crown of the head continues to reach up. Ears are above shoulders, shoulders are above the hips. Back to your breath. Hands resting at the thighs, elbows bent, arms are relaxed. Crown of the head continues to rise up, the eyes close. Bring all of your awareness to your heart center. Simply notice. Know that our yoga practice is helpful in so many ways. For today's theme, we can take the practice that we did on the mat to using this energy in a really playful way. Being patient, connected, and adventurous on the mat can provide you with exciting experiences beyond. So allow yourself to have fun. If you'd like to join me as we close our practice, as you inhale, sweep the arms up, fingertips towards the sky, palms meet. Exhale, bring the thumbs down the midline, connecting the thumbs to the heart center. Inhale deeply. Exhale, big sigh of relief. Thank you so much for joining me for our practice today. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have fun, adventurous experiences, and I'll see you next time. Namaste.